Jacob, what's the pettiest thing that you've ever done, or maybe like one of the that you could share with us, like the pettiest thing?
The
Like you get mad at somebody, or you're just annoyed, so you just do something petty.
Man, that's awful. 'Cause I'm trying to think of like what would be the best
What
example.
something
Um,
that you could share?
well, that's what I mean. Like, there's some things I could talk about, but I don't think we want to talk about. And then there's some things that like that's a good question. And okay, all right, I'll just go back to college days. I think those are always the best. I'm not gonna tell a story, but I will tell a story. Back in college, there was a girl I was interested in, and I was really like just wanting to like just get to know better. So like we'd hang out and stuff like that off the college campus, whatever. No, nothing big. It was just a friendship. That's all it was. There was
Yeah, but you wanted more.
I wanted more. I don't think she wanted more, but it was just one of those like it just wasn't there. But anyways, I instantly, as any young 18, 19-year-old boy would assume, is like I'm falling in love and I'm gonna go out and get what's mine and yeah, whatever. And anybody gets in my way, I'm gonna fight them off. And there was a guy who was just happy to hang out with her, and I just was like instantly jealous. Like
Trying to
instantly.
think of who this is.
Yeah,
I
don't.
think I know. I think I know who the girl is.
Yeah, well, it's
I
fine.
don't know necessarily who the guy is, but I have a good idea. Go on.
Needless to say, neither of us ended up dating them. But
Is he married now?
yes.
Okay. Is
But,
she?
yes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, she is. Who did? We'll have another conversation for another day. So, anyways, all I instantly just started doing was I just started saying things about them, but nonchalantly, and I didn't even say mean things. What I was doing was I was just trying to prod interest from her about them, so that way I knew whether or not I needed to worry. So in my mind, that's petty because I
Is that petty, or is that just trying to play the wedge?
no, I think that's okay. First off, no. Second off, I think it's petty because it's none of my business. Like, dude, I had no right. There's no exclusivity there. Like, it's nothing. It's just get over yourself, dude. Like, you know what I mean?
Was that pettiness, or was that just there's 50 of us on campus and
We were all fighting for
everybody?
over 10 women.
There was a very small pool of people.
It was tough, man. It was tough those days. I tell you what. And if you didn't strike early, you weren't hitting for the rest of the year.
If you didn't strike early, you didn't strike at all, which was
What?
me. I didn't strike it. I got my wife's number the day we graduated college. I had been interested in her months prior, but the girls' dorm told her that I was bad news.
Boo. How
We got
dare
married
they?
before most of them.
That's right. Shows them, right?
One kid, one on the way, so you know.
Papa Eric
saying.
wins.
It's interesting that that's the pettiest thing that you.
I mean, I
come up
can
with.
tell you other things I've done, but they're like really terrible. Like,
Okay, I don't mean like terrible level petty. I mean like, someone cuts you off. Like I used to have a policy: if I'm in the fast lane, you cut me off for no reason. It's dark. I turn my high beams on until you move.
oh, that's mean.
That's
I used
petty.
to I used to block like 2 lane, 2 lane roads that merge into one.
Yeah.
If I know it's coming, I know people will pass you if there's a lot of traffic. I sit in the middle.
I like it.
Yeah, because I don't want them. That's not fair. Why do they get to pass everyone? That's not fair. Like, it's merging. The only reason you're taking that road is so you can pass everyone and get into the lane later.
Oh my gosh, my brother was going on this conversation with me this past weekend about how on one of those merges where it's called a scissor merge, and you're actually supposed to go all the way down to when the lane ends and then get in one at a time. No, I don't do that.
No.
I see it's coming, and usually at the 1 mile sign, and there's still traffic moving, I get over into the lane I'm supposed to be in, and I'll let a few people in. But once I get to the point where I've watched 4 people drive by and they're all trying to dive bomb in, no, sorry.
No, it's bull. And Midwesterners.
I will rear end the person in front of me before
Yes.
I let you in.
Midwesterners are notorious for letting people in, and it drives me nuts because I'm like, you don't deserve it. Where you're going is not as important where I'm going. Like, unless you have a person dying or I hear a crying woman in the background about to give labor to a child, get in line. Like, that's what it is.
I
So-
completely agree.
Oh, that one. Okay, that right there. That's probably petty.
That's pretty petty.
That's
That's
petty.
great. I like it.
all right.
Pettiest thing I did in college, our friend Mike Ivy will appreciate this one. We had a roommate, and he's already laughing because he already knows if he's listening. We had a roommate that used to complain and insists that someone was stealing his food out of his drawer.
Uh,
And he also used, even though we weren't at the time,
I
and he
already know where
also
this is
used to like
going.
sing and play his guitar at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, granted, I was the only one in the room in second semester that wanted to go to bed that late, but he couldn't sing, and I didn't understand what he was doing. So I had an accomplice with this one, and we would untune his guitar. He didn't notice. And then after he started insisting someone was stealing his food, we just nonchalantly take little bits of his food. He'd open the door. Yo, who's stealing my food?
That's messed up.
I mean, it is because I used to get mad when people stole my food too. We just couldn't stand living with the poor guy, and that was years ago, and it's just one of those things. You live with people. There's certain people you love, but you can't live with them.
Oh, 100%. We had a guy, there was a guy across the hall who would come into our room at 2 a.m. stoned out of his mind, searching our drawers for food. And he'd be like, hey, he'd wake us up like, hey man, can I have this? It's been sitting in there for a minute. And I'm sitting there like, what? No. And then one time I said, yeah, I remember I said yes once. It was a thing of beefaroni. Like, and he just wanted, yeah, dude, I know. He just wanted, but he was so stoned, it didn't matter. Like, he was just trying to get food. So then what I started doing was I started hiding my food in a different drawer just to see if he went through all of our drawers. And he didn't. He only went through, like, the second drawer. That's where we kept all of our food. And I was just like, I'm sick of having a dude that's stoned out of his mind asking me for food. Like, I'm over it. No.
That's pretty hilarious, actually. Yeah, the stealing food in college is you live with other men, and we're all fat slobs that want to eat.
And poor.
And poor. Yeah, very poor.
Christian ethics go out the window real quick.
School charges you money, and it's either boiling noodles in a coffee maker or going down the hall and seeing what's in someone else's fridge.
100%, man.
Yeah, we've all been there. But I digress. I just wanted to know. I was thinking about that this week, actually, specifically about the merging thing, because I told my brother when he said, you're supposed to scissor merge, I said, I don't care. I'll be that petty. And I got to thinking, what is the pettiest thing I've done? And that one's up there.
Yeah, scissor merging.
There's a few other petty things I've done.
I think the only thing I can really talk about is I block people from getting into the fast lane occasionally when there's like standstill traffic. But that's just because like it only takes me off because you're only the reason. Never mind. If there's an accident on the right hand side, just wait. You don't have to make a lane on the far side just to get through everybody. But it's okay.
Oh, I disagree with that one. You need to by that accident as fast as possible. You'll get stuck there forever.
Yeah, it's survival to fitness, I guess.
But anyways, I digress. Let's get started. This is the Under 500 podcast. Welcome back into the Under 500 podcast. My name is Eric. I am joined this week exclusively by Mr. Jacob Ware. Jacob, how are you?
We had to cut down to our 53-man roster, and turns out Aaron didn't make the cut this week, man. It just too many injuries. They were racking up, and we just couldn't get it done. He wouldn't take a pay cut either, so it's just best we went ahead and released him. He'll hit waivers, and someone will pick him up.
Someone will pick him up. Yeah, he's a great talent. Great takes. Nah, obviously we know Tyler's busy doing a lot of things, and Aaron was actually busy this week, so show must go on. So we figured me and Jacob would jump on here and try and get this episode in. Hopefully Jacob's dog doesn't ruin this episode the way it ruined the other episode that none of you will ever hear. That had some really great content in it.
That sucked. I got nervous.
As I said, the dog walks in.
If you're watching, I'm sure you're laughing a little bit. Unfortunately, we had an episode queued up for you guys that was honestly really exciting to talk about. And as I was editing it, my dog got underneath my feet and unplugged my computer, and it corrupted the files mid editing. I've never seen this happen before, that files got affected on the editing software. I even messaged the group. I was like, "Hey guys, this doesn't seem right, but we have a problem." And I sent him a screenshot, and Tyler, the other guy, started walking through. He's like, "No, yeah, you're screwed." And I was just like, "Wow, this sucks." It just sucked. So it is what it is. It's a little insider of an online podcast of what sometimes some of the issues you may have with it. Eric, you look annoyed.
Nah, I was just thinking this would be one of those moments that if I owned that dog, I'd do something petty later. Like, he normally gets food at 4. I wouldn't starve him because I know it wasn't his fault, but I'd feed him at like 4:05 and just make him stare at me for 5 minutes or something
Dogs
like
are
that.
creatures of habits. My dog,
They really are.
on Sunday mornings, occasionally I'll get a little too busy and I won't let him out, but I'll feed her. And if I come home, she doesn't eat because I didn't let her out first. And it's like, that's weird. Like, why are you that weird?
Habit, yeah.
Yeah.
They're good, but that's good. I mean, the dog I have is the same way, like very routine. And the routine is what makes a dog so good because that's what gets them potty trained so that you can have fun with them without worrying about them peeing all over your floor.
100%. But luckily for the Under 500 podcast, we try to stick to a routine. And right now, week 1 is wrapping up as we speak.
Oh, good transition, Jacob. Good job.
Thanks. I've done this for a minute. A lot to talk about, a lot to unpack pre-week 1 and post-week 1. Eric, I think there's something you want to start with and you want to bring up real quick.
Yeah, I just wanted to. You set me up to tell you that you were right. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I want the trumpets to be sounded. Yes, I was right, but go ahead and tell them why.
So Jacob was right. I think COVID did play a role in the whole Cam out, Mac in situation in New England. This is what our boy Jacob said a couple weeks ago. He said, for Cam Newton, I'm sure he's incredibly frustrated because he might have felt like he was following the policies. I think, if anything, this gives New England a chance to push the Mac Jones agenda. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
One of the factors that happened. And I don't mean that like, his vaccination status was the reason why they cut him. But, if you're going to get the same level, let's say you get the same level of play from Mac that you would get from Cam, but because Cam is unvaccinated and has already had to go through these hurdles, let's say that he has something that's maybe not his fault happen on a Saturday and now he's unavailable on Sunday. They've already had that happen. And I think that factored in. And, he talks about, he's had these videos come out with him and his father, and they're sitting on a field and talking, and, he's all dressed up in a very Cam way, which, it's him, right? It's just him being him. And he's talking about what had gone down. And he said he was shocked that he got cut. And that he said that Mac could not handle him as a backup, like there would be just a weird kind of thing, which I actually kind of agree. I think Cam is just that kind of guy in a locker room.
Oh, 100%.
I don't think Mac could. Yeah, I don't think Mac could be the leader that I think he desires to be of a football team if the guy who's backing him up is already viewed as a leader by a certain population, one way or the other, the team, the offense, the wider. If he's got rapport with the same people that Mac is trying to build a rapport with. But I don't know. I think you were right. I just think, so we have a guy in Cam that I think was struggling. I think he looked better in the preseason, but really maybe couldn't throw the football anymore. And then you had a guy in Mac, who we're going to get to him in a little bit because he's already played this week and it was pretty dang good. So I just think that factored in. I think that the vaccination status factored in. There was another thing that factored into this too, though, that I think was more the reason. I really do think it was more the reason. But again, I think you were right about the vaccination thing.
Okay. Well, actually, let's dive into that a little bit because there is another reason I want to show you guys. So if you guys want, pay attention to this and listen to this.
I got some inside sources now, and I won't say names, but from what
Mr. ESPN,
from what I gained, inside sources in the actual building. From everything that I understand now, Mac was basically helping Cam learn the playbook. So imagine that. Learn that right now.
I don't know about that.
Absorb it. Learn it. Because Mac was having less MEs, mental errors. That's what an ME is in football, mental errors. He was having less mental errors in having a better understanding of the offense. We didn't see Cam run any 2-minute. We didn't see him run any no huddle.
He was with the first team.
You have to run no huddle. That's vital. Oh,
Not
bless
really.
you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
No
mask
COVID.
on. Yeah, no, you're good.
Yeah. So that was Rob Ninkovich, who used to play for the Patriots, and he stated there at the beginning of that video that he had a source inside, not an NFL source, not a league source, not a reporter source, but someone inside Gillette, someone inside the locker room that said Mac Jones was teaching Cam Newton the playbook.
That is true. Because, again, this is all, there's an inside source, but nonetheless, we don't know who it is. If that's true, shame on Cam. That's all I can say. Like, I expect more from him. As a veteran, as a guy who's been an MVP, as a guy who's been to a Super Bowl, you know that your team just drafted a quarterback within a very early pick. Was it the first round?
It was the first round.
A first round pick, and you're not learning the playbook?
The playbook is being taught to you by that pick.
Like, or did you give up? Like, at that point, like, there's so many things that you can go into of, like, you know, not only did you allow, because, like, what was already going to cause an issue, you're now giving the team every bit of ammo to fire you. And that's always the thing that quarterbacks have to understand. There are two things that can screw you out of a job. Jimmy G's learning this a little bit right now. It's bad play consistently or injuries. Those two things. Go ahead.
And when you have both, it's a recipe for disaster, right?
100%.
Which is where Cam Newton is. He's not the same player after his injuries that he was before.
Oh yeah, and you can look at a number of different examples. Like Peyton Manning, for example, he had his foot injury. He was like, "There's no way this guy can go anymore." It's still Peyton freaking Manning. He comes out the next year and hobbles his way to a Super Bowl. It's still Peyton Manning. Did he win the Super Bowl outright? I mean, his play didn't do much to add to it. He still won. He was still the best option for Denver as a quarterback. You now fast forward to a little bit more of the present time. Tony Romo got hurt. Dak Prescott comes in, plays phenomenally. It's going to happen. You knew it was. He's going to play phenomenally. Guess what Tony Romo does? He's now riding the bench because you have a better quarterback that isn't getting hurt, who costs less, who can be better. And this is the exact same scenario. The Patriots just saved money. I don't know how much of a guaranteed contract Cam Newton got when he re-signed his deal.
Aaron mentioned this because Aaron's like, they gave him a raise and he still couldn't learn the playbook. And I had pointed out on the episode that got deleted that this will probably come up a couple times. You know, it is hard for a quarterback to, if they go from, like, I forget what it is, but numbers to like letters, numbers to words, you know, or numbers to words kind of thing. So like if you remember, Brady would say like 33-19 or whatever he says. He says numbers, and that's the type of calls he gives. Whereas Manning would say, you know, remember Omaha. You remember that era? You know, how many times did we say Omaha? There's just different ways that different
teams
all
communicate. It's a language. You're learning another language.
And it's like two different languages. And so if Cam comes from one, he has to go to the other. It could be a challenge. But
let me actually give you.
You had over a year, and they gave you a raise. Like, that's your job to learn that language. And I would have hoped that you would have been more doing that than, you know, I think his Instagram presence is great, and he's smoking cigars and talking about all these life things. And I'm not saying he can't do any of that, but how much, you know, if your job's on the line, I just want to know that you're focused. And if I see those videos coming out on Instagram, and then it comes out that maybe the rookie was teaching you the playbook, that's an engaged. So now you're not engaged. You're hurt. You can't play. And there's a vaccination issue as it relates to the pandemic, which might be the last thing on the list. But again, it's something on the list. And if I'm any GM, not just Bill Belichick, any GM, and I look at that and go, you know, I don't know what else I can do for this guy. Bill had bent over backwards for Cam, sung his praises, had nothing bad to say, said the night of the draft that Cam was his starter, the whole thing. And all this comes out, and it's like, okay, so you got all these chances from a guy who's known for not necessarily giving people that many chances, or being just, you know, making business decisions, maybe is a better way to say that, and you blew him.
If you guys don't know, the NFL play calling system, it is very difficult. And it's a lot, like, it's added on. I played football for many years, and, like, the farthest I ever got was, like, we get into a huddle, and we call the formation. So big tight would be in one of the formations we call, which is double tight end. So it'd be big.
Don't joke. You played semi-pro.
I did, but I still can speak to this a little bit. Like, even if
no, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I
meant that in a good way.
So we get in there. We call big tight 98 veer left. All that meant was 98 was a play call to let the linemen know how they're blocking. Veer left was a running through the tackle. That's the indicator to the tackle, like the running back, what the play call is. In the NFL, it completely changes. It's just an example of one play call. This is actually from Tom Brady's playbook when he played for the Patriots. And this was an example of what it would be. He'd come into the huddle and say, regular, far double wing right, hum short, 76, halfback shallow cross. That was the play call. All right? So that is a large play call. That is very big. But all he's simply communicating is the formation, which is regular. This is the normal offense. far double wing right, which basically explaining there's tight end, 2 receivers to the right, hum short. 76 is basically the offensive line play call. Halfback shallow cross is a halfback option pass block. That's all it is. That's all.
Yeah, that's it. That's all it is.
But that's a lot, right? Is that not a lot?
Yeah, you're explaining that like, it's a halfback that and half of, myself included, half of us listening are going, okay, so I heard a line. What's that good burger?
All right.
I know some of those words.
Now you're tracking with my logic here, though. For Cam Newton, who's been in the league way longer than this dude, and this dude's out here teaching Cam Newton this playbook, shame on Cam. That's all I can say.
Do you think Nick Saban had a big factor in Mac knowing all this already?
Hey, there's a reason why there's 53 Alabama players right now in the NFL. Enough to field their own NFL team.
But isn't it said that the Alabama quarterbacks haven't necessarily panned out?
No, they haven't. But to sit there and say there's 53 Alabama players in the NFL is still a big deal.
That's you're right, because that means they have an intellect on understanding what play calls are. Yeah, no, you're totally. I got you.
I think there's just a lot to say when you're able to teach a language that people are able it's easier for them to understand, but also your coaches. Again, I want to double back to this. When your coaches really feel like there's another guy, you might give them a little bit more time or attention to make sure they become the guy.
That's what 100% happened in the preseason. Cam was very basic offensive plays, and maybe it wasn't necessarily Bill, but definitely Josh McDaniels, the Patriots offensive coordinator, was putting Mac Jones in 2-minute drills with no huddles and all sorts of misdirections.
All signs pointed to Mac Jones.
The complexity was there for Mac Jones, and he held his own. I don't want this to be the Patriots show the whole time.
No.
But I will want to ask you this: do you think vaccination status is going to have a effect on how the league is able to get through this season, which is expanded, right? 17 games plus two wild cards, 1 bye in the playoffs, right?
Actually, that actually brings me a good statistic I actually want to pull back up, because I think you're right. It will play a huge role. And let me tell you why. The NFL has came out and said that we will not tolerate and we will not have anyone who is not vaccinated risk the exposure of other players. Because everyone knows that the COVID vaccine, while it's still effective against fighting against COVID, and that's not what we're focusing on, that people can still get COVID from it. So my point is that right now, as it stands, 93.5% of all players and more are vaccinated in the NFL. That's a large number of people who are vaccinated. The problem is a lot of teams are still having issues with getting their whole team on board. So while other teams are pulling the weight, some teams like the Texans, for example, are still a little bit behind was it the Texans, I believe?
So there are 2 teams at 100% vaccination rate. Do you remember what those 2 teams were?
Oh, you would ask him that. I don't know. Is it Jacksonville?
One of them should come as no surprise to you.
Oh, really?
Tom Brady's Tampa Bay
Buccaneers. Yeah, of course, because that dude's not getting away with a Super Bowl.
He's locked in. What did we talk? I think Aaron mentioned it. It was the advantage of being fully vaccinated.
Yeah, because
you don't have to worry about players. Yeah, so
I think it's the Bucks. Is it the Raiders?
No, it's the Falcons are also
the Falcons,
which is weird to me.
Yeah, they have nothing to play for, so that's fine.
And it was reported that Brady had COVID right after the Super Bowl. After the Super Bowl, parade.
Weird.
Boat parade.
It's weird how he ends up having COVID, right after the Super Bowl. Anyways.
You got some theory there, Jacob?
No, I'm joking.
You just hating on the GOAT.
I'm just hating on the GOAT. Here's what I want to say, though. It will play a role if you have a player that's currently unvaccinated, whether it's in a fantasy league or on your favorite team. Just know that there will be a point in their season where they will be placed in protocol a couple of times, and they may miss a game or two. Because the NFL is a lot harsher on the unvaccinated compared to the vaccinated when it comes to COVID protocols. So,
yeah, and I hate that's how it's happened, but it is what it is.
Yeah, just follow. You're part of the league for a reason. They have rules in place, whether you believe in vaccinations or not. You know what you're getting into. Cam Newton knew what he was getting into. He knew he could have lost his job because of it. It's the truth. So, but the good part about the NFL is that it changes every week, and there's a lot of news that we get to report on and talk about. And you're right, this isn't the Patriots show. A lot of games happen in week 1. A lot of things that we can actually talk about. And I actually want to talk about one thing that became a big deal is the freaking Bills lost to the Steelers.
Yeah.
And I was blown away because it was one of the things where I'm like, Pittsburgh squeezed enough turds out to win. That's all
I don't
it
think
was.
the Steelers' offense was any good either, was
the
it?
O-line's atrocious. Najee Harris averaged 2.8 yards a carry on 16 carries. All right? That is awful. Big Ben was under pressure majority of the game. He threw the ball 32 times.
18 for 32, yeah.
Yeah, only had 188 yards and a touchdown. It was one of those things where the Bills' offense just couldn't get it going. The run game wasn't really, like, it was there, but they ended up starting playing from behind, or it was a close enough game where they couldn't afford a chew clock, so they couldn't really smash the ball as much as they want, but they were running okay. They just didn't score. Like,
I think their defenses might be one of the best this year.
Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
I sadly enough, I agree. I do think Pittsburgh is a very underwhelming team. I will still say that I don't think they're making the playoffs. I don't think they're winning the division. But, I mean, I could be wrong.
No, but that's okay, because if they know Big Ben's only bringing it back in another year or two, I don't know if he's going to come back next year.
He didn't look good. Did you catch any of that game?
No, I didn't catch any of it, but you don't have to tell me that Big Ben, because even at the end of last year,
he just looked like he looks like a stone, and it's hard enough when you're telling the stone he has to move in the pocket now. Like the O line looked horrendous. I mean, it looked awful.
So if they're going to have a good defense and then come back next year with a new quarterback, it'd try their luck next year.
But
that's the way to do it.
Here's the thing: Big Ben, he played when it mattered most, and while the Bills, they couldn't quite get, they did not score a touchdown. I think this was the first time since I forget what the stat was, like 2019. They went all game without scoring 2 touchdowns in one quarter. I think it was that was the stat that got rang off, because it's been a whole 2 years. Like they normally would score 2 touchdowns at least once in one quarter in the entire game, and they didn't do it this game. So yeah, the Bills' offense just wasn't there, and it just sucks because that team is good. I think that team is still one of my favorite teams in the AFC. They just couldn't get it done. So
do you think a lot of teams are taking this first game as because the Bills are supposed to be good, right?
Yeah.
The Chiefs are supposed to be good, and they just barely won their game. We're going to get to that in a minute, but I think that a lot more teams are doing what a few teams caught on to even when we had 4 preseason games in a regular year, which is you take the first month to try and figure out and work through some things in a real situation. So,
yeah.
I think in a 17-game season, it doesn't matter as much, just percentage-wise. Statistically, it doesn't matter as much, but I think it just overall, as far as the team goes, because 17 games, it can be so long ago that you won or lost your first game. So
100%.
I think setting the tone and winning the first game is super important. I do think that. Plus, it's for a lot of these fan bases their first time back in their stadiums, and you want to win for the home crowd.
I think that's so important. And you're right when you say a lot of these teams, this is like dress rehearsal to them. When you talk about the preseason, the last preseason game, some teams don't even play their starters because they don't want them to get hurt. So for them, this is the first time the team actually gets out there and plays a full gassed-on game. And we can talk about this because it's happened, but I get to go back to the Cowboys game. The Cowboys versus the Buccaneers was a good game. It was a very great game. Tom Brady looked awesome. Dak Prescott looked awesome. Both sides. But this was the first time Dak's been able to play with a first-team offense since the very beginning of training camp. There's going to be some issues.
We could talk about that because, I thought that was a really good game.
It was actually one of the highest watched football games compared to the Super Bowl. How crazy is that? It was a Thursday night football game, and they're pulling viewership like that.
Cowboys Nation it's Cowboys has Lakers, and it's New York or Yankees.
100%. It was
not in that order, but you know what I mean.
But then you also have the drawing power of Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
Tom Brady, yeah. The Tom Brady show, yeah.
And I tell you what, it was worth every minute. That game was nonstop action.
It was good. It was good back and forth.
Yeah.
Thursday night games aren't always the best, and first game out of the chute, it's Brady and it's Dallas, so everybody's going to watch it. But it could have been just this boring, we're not gonna do anything crazy here, and it wasn't.
Here's what
it was
I'm saying.
A fun game.
I'm taking away from this that the Cowboys competed with the Super Bowl champions last year, and not only did they compete, they kind of should have won. But
here we go.
Should have doesn't mean they did. I'm not going to say I'm not like a.
No. Let's. You were all cranked up after that game. So
I was ticked. I was ticked off.
Let's get into this.
But sitting back on it,
did they get gifted a no call?
No, 100. Not the Patriots. The Buccaneers, yes, 100%. The offensive pass interference was very blatant on that play.
What about the holding right before it?
The holding's a 50-50 call, and even the refs say that. All right,
yeah,
that's a 50-50 call. But I will argue this: pass interference or not, the game is won when you're given opportunities to score and you don't. And the Cowboys went out there and they missed 3 field goals. One of them was a 60-yarder that probably shouldn't have been attempted.
Yeah, I'll throw that one away. What about the other ones?
The other two, awful. Like, you got to make those. If you make those, it's a different ball game. Hey, it's a way different ball game. The Bucks should throw over a touchdown at the end of the game, not kicking. That's the issue. Nonetheless, you can't sit there and look at one play and say that's why the team lost. The Cowboys competed. The defense did a lot better than what I was expecting. Were they amazing? No. Were they awful? Not really.
It's a hard gauge too against somebody like Brady who's so experienced.
And that offense. Look at the freaking offense.
That's like going against Kansas City. Boy, your defense didn't look good. Yeah, you went against Kansas City. What do you want?
Yeah, there's not much issue.
Can you hold them? Can you hold them under 30 points?
Yeah.
If you can hold them under 30 points, I'd say you had a good day. I'll tell you what, though, Tom Brady still looks ageless.
Even though there was a couple passes, I was just like, at the end of the day, they threw a lot. They had to. It was a throwing game. Dak Prescott
threw 2 picks that were such crap too.
Oh yeah,
the one in the end zone that don't count.
No.
And then he tried to dump it over to Fournette, and Fournette went up and just tipped it up in the air as a jump ball. Like, I hate that those. I think it was Tyler brought it. I hate that those even count as
should not
interceptions.
Count as interceptions. I 100%.
Or jump balls in the end zone. Aaron said that
crap.
too. That shouldn't count.
It's awful. But Brady looked good, and I think that team is once again the front runner in one of the NFC. If you didn't watch it, go back and watch the highlights. It was a good game.
You want to know the crazy stat about that game?
What?
I heard this week. So there are 10 teams in history that have had these stats stacked against them. 9 of them have lost, except the Tampa Bay Buccaneers under Tom Brady. They allowed 100 yards of penalties, or they were penalized 100 yards. They had I believe it was a -3 turnover ratio, so they gave up the ball 3 times. I think it was 3 fumbles or something like that.
There was a fumble and 2 picks.
And they allowed, I believe it was over 400 yards to Dak Prescott. Is that correct?
Yeah,
or to the offense, the Dallas offense.
That's correct.
So those 3, right?
Yeah.
Not the other 9 teams that have had those things happen to them in history all lost.
That is mind-blowing to me.
I think we call that the Brady effect, right?
That is the Brady effect.
That's the Brady effect. You're 100% vaccinated, not because we're for the vaccination, but because I want that next ring, because my favorite ring is the next ring, right?
Yeah.
And, how do you win that game? Well,
And Tom Brady is that guy.
What are you saying?
There's no arguing against that.
Even if you're not a Tom Brady honk, you look at that and go, all right, how does that happen?
Well, this also, I guess, since we're talking about Brady, let's that game happened. I do want to go back to your boy. Since Brady left the Patriots, now they're trying to find that hole for the Patriots. In steps in Mac, baby.
I want to talk about Dak for a minute, though. Because
I don't want to talk about Dak.
I do, because I think if anything came out of that game on Dak's end, is that boy can still play.
Yeah, he's going to be good. I think they're not worried about. I think the people who are worried about Dak.
Why are you trying to skip over Dak?
It's because I don't like hyping people up because I hype.
Are you
up,
worried that he's going to get
hurt.
hyped onto another team?
No. But Dak Prescott played phenomenal. There are some things I'm really upset about. Like, Zeke is rough, and I get it. They're the best rushing defense in the league. He just didn't look good. Like, it just wasn't there. Zach Martin was out, but that's no excuse. Like, you got paid, how was it? $70 million, I think, or something like that. An insane amount of running for a running back, and I just feel like we could be throwing Tony Pollard out there and he'd be playing better. We could have signed Le'Veon Bell and he might have played better. Like, I hate when I have to have those thoughts about a player. So Dak Prescott,
that's the thing though about running backs is I don't understand why you would pay them a lot of money, because they get cash fast, and there's no real telling, unless you're Adrian Peterson or some of those iconic guys that just
Alvin
don't
Kamara
seem
right
to
now.
Those guys that don't seem to age. I thought that Zeke was going to be one of those guys because he looked like he had the size for it, but that hasn't been the case.
No, I think Zeke's on the back end. And maybe I'm saying this, I might be eating my words. I in 3 years he'll be on the free agency. 2 years maybe.
What's he under contract till?
2 years from now.
So, and they have a right to trade him at any.
They can trade him or cut him.
They trade him if they want.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, Dak looked great, and I think for me, I'm sitting there smiling ear to ear because I know Dak Prescott's looking good. Now it comes down to the idea of can we get the whole offense rolling with the run game as well? Because that's what's the team's going to make me. I'll tell you right now, we will be one of the best offensive scoring teams in the league. As long
I
as
thought you guys have been that for the past few years, anyways. Like you score
we do, but when Dak's on the
when
field,
Dak is playing. Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb looked good too, and so did Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, man, he does not. Oh, I get hyped because I think about that. The only thing that sucks, Michael Gallup's out for about 3 to 4 weeks. So that's going to suck too. But it is what it is.
Well, speaking of hype, let's go to some hype
Mac
here.
Jones.
So, let me say this, right? Okay, so Friday, I'm driving back from my work office to come home to get lunch. I forgot it. And my brother, we have a group chat. My brother texts us and goes, so my coworker has 1, possibly 3 extra tickets. No, 2, possibly 4 extra tickets to the game on Sunday. Would anybody like to go? And I just went, because we were coming out to Boston anyways. We went to a get together. I got to see your boy Kyle. And I saw Bob too.
Oh, I love them.
Great guys the Butlers are. And I said, Michelle, because we were already going to be out that way. So I ended up sitting in, I think it was row 32. So in the Patriots, Gillette Stadium has a lighthouse end.
Yeah.
And that lighthouse end is actually the end the Patriots run out of. That's a couple seats above us was where the Patriots always have. I think every stadium has like honored seating for armed service members, service members to come in and watch the game. So that's kind of where we were sitting.
Nice.
So I was there. I was there for Mac Jones's first game, and let me tell you, the Patriots might have lost, but I walked out of there with a very, very large Mac Jones in my pantalones. Let me tell you. Oh my gosh, that kid can play. Like his first touchdown was right below me, and so that just adds to it because I was there and I got to see it. And that just helped the hype up. But I was really excited to see this kid play, especially after last year, and we really weren't sure what what Cam Newton was going to be. And then I got excited about Cam after the Seattle loss. I thought for sure that that was going to be like this guy can maybe play, and I was really geeked up. And then they didn't end up amounting to anything. So I know it's the first game, but it's a loss I walked away happy about.
Well, there's a lot of
really
things.
Happy about.
There's a lot of things you can talk about. Like Mac Jones, 74% completion rating for a rookie.
Phenomenal.
That's great. The yards was there. It's not like he threw for nothing. He threw for 280, almost 300 yards. He threw for a touchdown. There's a couple things. Nelson Aguilar looked really good in that offense. You paid for him, and he went out there, 5 catches, 70 yards, touchdown. Jacoby Myers played well. That tight end you guys went out. Both tight ends, I think you guys both went out and signed. Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry both were involved.
They played well. They really were kind of no-shows until the second half.
Yeah.
But let's just keep it on Mac Jones for a minute. Mac Jones has the highest completion percentage at 74.4% of any rookie quarterback making their first NFL start in NFL history.
That's impressive.
With a minimum of 25 pass attempts. He completed like 29 of 39.
Yep, that's correct.
He had a phenomenal day. He made a couple mistakes that, frankly, his team saved him. One was his first pass was like a backwards pass that should have really been a fumble, and it didn't end up being a fumble. It was a backwards. It was a mess. I was like, oh gosh, here we go. This kid's got the jitters. But no, I thought the thing that came out of that not only is the completion percentage, but also their third down conversion rate. Their third down conversion rate was really good, and they owned the time of possession.
11
Very
for 16.
Good. And some of those were 3rd and long too. Like it wasn't no 3rd and 1, just kind of shove it down their throat thing. It was like 3rd and 9, kind of 3rd and 11 kind of situations.
It's not very often that you see a team outplay the other team and still lose, and that was kind of the scenario that happened here. The Patriots beat the Dolphins in almost every category available, whether it's total yards, third down efficiency. You could even argue they beat them in punts. That's how much the Patriots did beat them. But they still lost in the end, which is just one of those things where it's like, you got to finish. You got to finish as a team what you start.
Not only that, but they let Tua go down the field on their opening drives of both halves and on the end drives of both halves. So, Tua basically had his will on their defense. So
but
I didn't
even
like
then,
that.
it wasn't too bad because they were only 4 of 11 on third down. The Dolphins were. And on top of that, the time of possession was way less compared to the Patriots, 23 minutes versus 36 minutes. I think for me, when I look at this and I look at the game and I went back and watched some of the replays, I just think I saw a team that wasn't quite there yet. Like the Patriots, like it's there. The chemistry is going to get there. There might not be the worst team in the division now, like I originally thought they would be. But
I don't know why you would ever think that when there's the Jets in the division. Like, so long as that team is in any division,
I was thinking Zach Wilson might be the truth.
Oh boy, yeah. Did you see how that went down on Sunday?
That's another conversation. But we're gonna keep moving along. I will say this though, the Dolphins.
They were one fumble away from winning that game.
Yes, and I agree. And I think the Dolphins. If there's one thing to celebrate, Tua might not be a complete joke. He might be mediocre at best.
Mediocre. I thought they have good receivers too.
They do. They have Devontae Parker.
Huge.
Devontae Parker. They have Jalen Waddle. They have Myles Gaskin. And on top of that, guess who returns this week from suspension? Will Fuller.
Okay, all right. I forgot Will Fuller. Yeah.
He had a breakout year for the Texans. So he's getting ready to join that Dolphins receiving core. Tua has the tools. It's just, can he do it? And that's where it really comes down to. Patriots played great. They probably should have won. But I think next week, who'd they go on and play?
They got the Jets. They'll be 1-1 by the end of the.
Hey, look at that! There we go.
I wish that had been the first game. I really thought they could beat Miami. It was just they were sloppy. It was mistake free. So I heard this week, or I heard today, since the middle of the last season that Brady was with the Patriots, they're 11-15, and a lot of that has to do with their offense being just sloppy. So you could argue that, like, the end of the Brady era, it was obvious they needed to rebuild that team. Everybody on that team was cashed.
Yeah.
And then you go through the Cam Newton era, and Cam Newton was one of the biggest problems, and they had no one on the team. And now we're getting into this new era. But I would like to see them make less mistakes.
This is the rookie offense for the Patriots.
They can't make the mistakes that they're making.
And
there's no excuse for it when you have the best coach of all time.
You want to celebrate? You had a running back go over 100 yards, and I feel like forever within Damian Harris. He looked awesome. He looked really good.
He also fumbled the ball and lost the game. So.
It's okay, but he still looked good though.
Keeping that.
Oh, what a Debbie Downer. Well, I'll tell you what. You know what didn't look sloppy? It was a really awesome game to watch on Sunday. The Cleveland Browns played the Chiefs, and that was close. Good game. The Chiefs almost blew it, and believe it or not, I don't think Patrick Mahomes, if I saw the stat correctly, in September, Patrick Mahomes has not thrown an interception in his entire career, which is impressive. But this is also a testament to when it's Mahomes' time, it's Mahomes' time. Baker Mayfield did not play the best he could. Chiefs, man, Pat Mahomes looked amazing like always.
Did you see him joking about the meme after the game?
Yeah, he said, "There's like F it, throw it up to Tyree." He's like, "Yeah, sometimes that does go through my head when I'm in there."
I know he's down there somewhere and he can go get it.
He's a little dude. He can squeeze in. I mean, I'm gonna read off some of these stats and we'll talk about the gameplay whether or not we watched it. Patrick Mahomes 337 yards for 3 touchdowns. Yeah. On top of that, Tyreek Hill 11 catches, 197 yards and a touchdown. Travis Kelce getting 6 catches, 76 yards and 2 touchdowns. The big noticeable thing we got to recognize, Odell Beckham did not suit up for this game. Don't know if that would have made a difference or not. Nick Chubb.
Why didn't he?
I don't think he was still nursing an ankle injury, if I remember correctly.
Are they making that up because Odell's a basket case?
Odell's a diva, but it is what it is. Baker Mayfield, 21 for 28, which just came in my head. Is a good completion rating, but he 321 yards, 0 touchdowns, and interception. Nick Chubb, 15 rushes for 83 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the best receiver on the Cleveland Browns was David Njoku, surprisingly, at 3 catches for 76 yards. Did you watch this game, Eric?
No, because I was at the.
Oh, you were at the Patriots game.
Yeah, I was watching the box score, and then walking out, I was giving the updates to my father and my brother about the game.
Well, there's one thing I can notice right here. The Cleveland Browns still a good team. I mean, to sit here and compete with the Chiefs, it's only a testament to how good you are. But Baker's got to play better.
Do you think the AFC North is wide open? Between the Steelers defense, Joe Burrow, whatever the Ravens are going to be, and
man,
the
it's
Browns.
Close. I think it is.
Is it closer than maybe what we thought about a week ago?
I would argue. I could see it. I mean, it comes down to the Steelers defense. How much can defense? I guess I say this defense does win championships. But I don't know. I want to say no, but
do the Bengals have a shot at winning the division with Joe Burrow? Do they have a team, or do they just have Joe Burrow?
I would argue they have the second worst odds in winning the division. I think the Steelers have the worst odds in winning the division. I still hold true to that. I think the Browns are the favorites. The Ravens would be second, and Cincinnati would be third, close to second. It'd be like you could almost switch the 2 in between. I would say Cincinnati could beat the Ravens, but I don't know. Ultimately, though, I do want to touch on one thing about this game. that really stood out to me, at least, is that Pat Mahomes is still that guy. People had a lot of conversations or talks about how Pat Mahomes just doesn't play well when the lights are on and when it's big. I think these are games like that remind us how great Pat Mahomes is. That he's not a Brett Favre.
Yeah.
He's just not.
No.
And people say like, oh, he has all the tools in the world. Man, Brett Favre had Donald Diver. I don't know if you remember that. Driver. Do you remember him?
I've heard the name before. I was too young. I guess you were younger than me, but
yeah. I mean, well,
don't know my history as well.
That's okay. Pat Favre had deep receivers. I think that's the thing. But for this team, they are very deep. They are really good. Mecole Hardman was one of the fastest receivers coming out of the draft a couple years ago. He only had 3 catches, 19 yards. I think there's one thing I wanted to say is that the Chiefs, I guess, are still the best team in the AFC.
Oh, I don't think that's a question.
Well,
Yeah,
I thought the Bills was, but apparently I was wrong.
You know what? You guys did kind of debate about some of that. No, I think the Chiefs. I just think they're too well coached. They have too good of a quarterback, and they have too many talented pieces on that team to not be the best team. I think the Bills are probably the best. Like, how do I put this? Like they're not the juggernaut team. That's the best team. Does that make sense?
They're
like,
not.
They're like the best team, which is the Chiefs. They're just a juggernaut, but. Like David and Goliath kind of thing.
Let me ask you for your opinion on this. Should the Browns be worried about Odell?
Well, considering, as you said, that he's a diva and that he's allegedly nursing an ankle injury, which might be legit, by the way. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't followed that storyline. And considering how talented he could be and how that can really elevate a quarterback that clearly needs to play a little bit better, I would say, yeah, I would be worried about that.
Okay, I can understand that. Even if it's like a little too early, I don't disagree. But the Browns,
I would say worried with a lowercase w at the moment.
Yeah, the Browns and the Chiefs put on a show. What wasn't a show was what was happening in Houston. Holy crap!
We talked about Houston being the worst team in the league this year and could go 0-17, which would be a feat, by the way.
Tyrod Taylor, 21 for 33, 291 yards, 2 touchdowns. He looked great. I mean, my gosh, turn the clock. Hey, he's still mad about what happened in L.A.
I would be.
The doctor
I would be mad about what happened with the Bills, too.
Yeah, well, that's why
he was semi-decent for the Bills.
Tyrod Taylor's always been a decent and potentially good quarterback, and he just cannot get through on a team for some reason. I don't know what it is. But here we are. Mark Ingram pounded the rock for 26 attempts for 85 yards, Eric. That's awful. I mean, 3.3 yards a carry, and they just kept feeding the boy. I mean, they let that man eat. It is insane to me. The thing that goes on paper though is Brandon Cooks was cooking all day. He had 5 catches for 132 yards, which that is phenomenal. But Trevor Lawrence threw 3 interceptions in his debut, along with 3 touchdowns. He threw 51 times. Eric, is that alarming?
I think so. I thought the Patriots had a conservative game in that they handed the ball off way too much, specifically in the red zone. Like I don't think Mac threw a touchdown, but I don't think he threw into the red zone. And I thought, that was conservative, but that they did open him up a little bit and let him throw. And I couldn't believe that he had thrown 39 times. But that's high. Like that's no joke. You throw 39 times. That's an actual quarterback throwing the football. 51 times your first week ever. I
want to go on record.
What are
Tom
you
Brady
doing?
and Dak Prescott were throwing that many times. Those are pros. Like those are vets who have proven who can throw the ball. I think a lot
with
of
actual weapons, and they're not throwing that many times.
And 100% with you. I think that's the issue, is that the best receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars was DJ Chark, who last year was an injury joke line. That's all that was. He was constantly hurt with 3 catches, 86 yards. I think a lot can be said about this team when you look at it from Urban Meyer's perspective. They had 10 penalties for 82 yards.
I will say just about the penalties. We've mentioned them a few times. I think the penalties this week we have to be able to take with a grain of salt, because that's not the first team I've heard of that had 10 and I don't think that happens every week.
The Vikings had, I think, 14 penalties this week.
So this is the NFL first week for, we're setting the tone. We're going to call things. We're going to make sure you guys know what you can and cannot do. We're going to get some things out of the way right now. If you do that stupid thing, you're going to get called. So, I do think there's a discipline to that, but I do think the first week I just think if there's going to be more penalties the first month or
Yeah.
so. By the time December rolls around, half of these penalties aren't going to be called.
I
Mostly
think-
because the teams are going to get it together, but also because the refs are going to start swallowing their whistles, which is exactly how I want it to be, by the way.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think the thing that's going to be telling for at least both of these teams, one would be the coaching for Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer, you ain't getting the job done at 3-11 on third downs.
No,
Not getting the
at all.
job done. But here's the thing: you also got to put your team. Every single one of those third down, not every single one of those third down attempts. I'm sorry, I haven't looked at this. 8 of those third down attempts was 5 yards or more.
You know, really what the bigger question with Urban Myers is, what is Jacksonville's objective right now?
People are saying tank again.
Are they tanking again? And are you going to ruin your quarterback by purposely tanking? And
Is it ruining when he throws 3 touchdowns still and for 330 yards?
I mean injuries.
Oh, okay.
Just
yeah.
if you're tanking, stick him on the bench, get some scrub off the street that can manage a game. You know, there's guys out there.
I would argue.
Pick up Cam Newton. Let him hand the ball off.
I would argue, and we can't follow every storyline. If we did, we'd be here for 3 hours. I would argue there's another approach in the league that's kind of starting to maybe probably shed some light on what it's like to lose continuously and maybe put together a good team. And let's look what happened in Cincinnati. Cincinnati was able to beat the Vikings by a thriller, by the way, overtime. Eric has that look on his face like, why are we talking about Cincinnati? But I want to talk about this because the game was that good. It went to overtime. They won by a field goal, 27-24, and Kirk Cousins played well. He 36 attempts for 49, 36 completions, 49, 350 yards, 2 touchdowns. But Joe Burrow was more efficient. And he completed 20 passes for 27 attempts, 261 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Joe Mixon ran almost 30 times, Eric. 30 times. That's a lot.
So their offensive line did get a lot better. If they're willing to run the ball 30
get
times.
better. Jamar Chase, the man who apparently couldn't catch a football, 5 catches, 101 yards for a touchdown. The Cincinnati Bengals, who has probably one of the worst head coaches statistically in the league right now.
Who is their head coach, by the way?
Zach Taylor, which went into the league with a whopping 4 wins in 2 seasons. 1 in overtime.
They fired Marvin Lewis to get some guy that was actually worse.
Well, here's what I want to say though. The Bengals was not efficient on third down. They were 3 attempts or 4. They were on third down. They converted 3 out of 14, but they converted 2 of their 4th downs, which was huge. Here's the thing I want to talk about. They did the same thing. They tanked for a couple years. Even they tanked another year pretty much after they had Burrow pretty much and got another good pick at Jamar Chase. Is this is this pointing up for the Bengals? Are we looking at a new trajectory and are we seeing the drop in the Vikings?
I don't see an up point with the Bengals so long as that's their head coach. I don't know. I have a heart. There are just some teams. I don't mean to be prejudiced against some teams, and I know you're from that area, and I know you have a lot of friends, and we both do have friends that are big fans.
I'm
of that team.
I'm honest though. I want to know.
But like, there are just some teams that even people that have you go back to Boomer Esiason, who I think played for Cincinnati. Did he play for Cincinnati?
Yeah, he the quarterback.
He said something like it's a black hole. Like there are some teams that they called it the Bermuda Triangle. Forget what I think it was them, Indianapolis, and one other team. It's just like the Bermuda Triangle of, they're just never going to be any good. It's in their DNA. They're just a loser franchise. It was, but every dog has his day because the Cubs,
100%.
The Cubs finally, the Red Sox, the Cubs, the Patriots before Bill Belichick were that too. Like I do believe that every team has that opportunity or will get that opportunity, and it's a matter of whether or not they're going to take advantage of it. I don't see that happening with the Cincinnati Bengals with Zach Wilson as their head coach. I don't see that happening with
Zach
the
Taylor.
Yes.
Yes.
No, sorry,
Wilson,
Zach.
the quarterback.
Sorry, Zach Taylor. I don't see the Jets ever being relevant again. So long as is it Woody something or other?
I don't even know who the coach
anyways,
is. That's how
their
relevant
owner,
it is.
No, the owner. So long as their owner is the owner of that team. That team is just it is so dysfunctional.
Well, let me ask you this then. Dalvin Cook ran the ball 20 times for 61 yards, averaging 3 yards a carry. Kirk Cousins played well, but they didn't get the job done. Should the Vikings be worried?
I think if Kirk Cousins played well, again, it's his first game of the year.
So you don't think that's it's any kind of concern to be losing to the Cincinnati Bengals?
I don't know. Win or loss this week. I think this week is more There are more storylines and more interesting things to follow, especially because it's 17 games this year.
Yep.
There are more interesting things about the players and what that can mean down the stretch. Dak Prescott is healthy. What is that going to look like for the Dallas Cowboys? Tom Brady is still Tom Brady. What is that going to look like for Tampa Bay? Joe Burrow looks healthy, and their offensive line got better. What does that mean?
Amazing out there. And let me tell you this. It was interesting that we've talked about Dak. We've talked about the Brady effect. We've talked about Mac Jones. Joe Burrow, he sat in the pocket. He climbed the pocket. And at first, he was only throwing passes for like 5 yards, Eric. When I was watching this game, I was like, this man's got to uncork the freaking ball at some point. He's got to show the arm. In the second half, he came out and he just started uncorking it, 15, 20. At one point, he dropped a dime to Jamar Chase down the field, a 30-yard bomb. And I was like, that is what's going to win them games. Is he's got to start stepping up and delivering the ball deep. That's how you got to extend the field. Like, you got to extend the field as a quarterback. You don't get the job. Cam Newton experienced it. Tua experienced it. A lot of these quarterbacks, they have a hard time getting the ball downfield. Carson Palmer, even though he didn't win a lot, you know what he was good at? Getting the ball downfield. He did that with Arizona. Arizona became a force because of that, because Larry Fitzgerald was able to stretch the field a lot more instead of playing that slot position that he was forced to play in for so long.
Yeah, I do love the slot position, though, and I do love quarterbacks that – I like quarterbacks that are capable of throwing it down the field, but I don't know if every quarterback needs to do that. I think the efficiency thing. I think knowing – it's not just about stretching the field. It's about it's accuracy and efficiency, right? So
yes.
I don't care if you get 5 yards a throw and you're dinking and dunking down the field if that's what you need to do to win the game. I will agree with you, though, is that I couldn't stand – I remember watching the Cowboys a couple of years ago when what's his name was still there, the head coach.
Jason Garrett.
Jason Garrett. It was like, hand the ball off, hand the ball off, hand the ball off, third and 9, chuck the ball 20 yards.
Yes.
Hand the ball off, chuck the ball 20 yards, incomplete, hand the ball off, when it becomes like – you have to be able to do all three things. You have to be able to hand the ball off. You have to be able to do the short intermediate stuff and be able to stretch the field. And that's what your quarterback needs to do. And I couldn't stand that the Cowboys were just relying on Dak to stretch the field and just chuck it out there. Because really at that point, you're relying on your wide receivers to be in the right spot at the
100%.
right time. Whereas the short stuff, I think, really shows you as a quarterback being able to get the wide receiver where he's supposed to be and predict where he's going to be, right? Not just like over the top, but like in traffic.
Yeah.
Like the route running.
I think that's a good testament to what, and Peyton Manning said this best. Peyton Manning said, a quarterback, you want to know if a quarterback's going to be elite, can they keep their eyes downfield and know where their check down is the entire time without looking at them? And that's true. Because what a good quarterback can do is says, I know where my safety valve is. Is anything open bigger? Because if it's open bigger, take it. Take it. But if it's not, make the safe play.
Make the safe play. Get me 5 yards.
Yes.
I will take 5-yard completions every day because 2 of those is a first down.
Yep, 100%.
I will take that every day. Alex Smith got dogged on because he's a check down master, but the dude was efficient.
Yeah, efficient.
He just was never on a team that would really like. I don't know. Actually, I think Kansas City really did try and work with him a couple years.
I think Kansas City with Alex Smith playing there was a fun team to watch.
They were. That was the team that had the Kansas City massacre of the Patriots afterwards. The famous Ron the Cincinnati thing happened.
Oh,
gosh. I believe that was Alex Smith. There is one other guy we need to talk about, though, before we wrap this up.
We do need to talk about him. Do you want to say his name? Just to laugh.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron freaking Rodgers screwed me. I had him on one of my fantasy teams this week. And he sucked. I can't even say how big he sucked. I mean, 15 for 28, 133 yards.
Huge corn dogs, if you will.
2 interceptions. He got benched in the fourth quarter for Jordan Love. And the dude looks like he is homeless, and Tom Brady looks like he's 20 years younger.
I saw that meme come out today.
And here's the thing: Jameis Winston made it look like he was Aaron Rodgers in New Orleans because he threw for 5 freaking touchdowns. Eric, I don't know if you got to catch this game. I don't know if you got to watch the replays. He looked awful. I don't know what it was, and he did have some pressure. I will say this:
there's been some speculation, right, that he's just tanking.
Do you think he's that petty? Is that why you started this podcast like the way you did?
No, but that's a great point. Do I think Aaron Rodgers is that petty? Actually,
yes, I do. I agree. I agree with you. This is interesting when we get to talk about this now because it just wasn't there. At no point I was like, I feel like this guy just doesn't care. And hold on, let me say this before. We have had these types of starts with Aaron Rodgers before. I never forget when they were they 0-5, and then Rodgers was like, "We got to take care of stuff. We're going to take care of stuff," and then they went on to win 10 games straight. Do you remember that year? I forget what it was.
I vaguely remember.
Yeah,
this.
you know, like I think that maybe it was right after they won the Super Bowl or something stupid like that. I do think Aaron Rodgers is a phenomenal elite quarterback, but you have a lot of buzz about you all off season. You skip training camp. You show up last minute. You're like expecting the job to be there, which the job was there for you to have.
Which, by the way, it's either he's petty or he's not clicking with his offense. Because wouldn't you know it, when you don't show up to training camp and you don't get a good rapport with some of your wide receivers, even if you know them, but you know what I mean? Like, you're not clicking with them and playing with them.
Yes.
Might not show up well on the field.
They only got 1 third down out of 10.
Oh my gosh.
I
One
mean,
for 10.
It's terrible. I mean, it was just not there. It was awful. So, Jordan Love did check in, which I don't know if that was to celebrate or just because they were losing so bad. They were like, why not just see what we have? You know what I mean? Like, but if that's worrisome. Like, if I was Aaron Rodgers, I'd be saying like, this team hates me. Like, if we're already losing, they're just gonna pull me out now. Like, you're now like, how do I put this? What happened? This was Kerry Collins when Jake Locker got drafted by the Tennessee Titans, and Kerry Collins got pulled when they were down by 14 going in the fourth, and Jake Locker checked in and threw for a touchdown. Like, you know, your time is up. It's just a matter of when. I think that's now the point we're facing with the Packers. Is like the Packers.
The Packers eventually have to say, I wonder. See, this is where I think the pettiness comes in, because I do think they were looking and shopping him, maybe vaguely, but they wanted such a high ask. So can't you see Aaron Rodgers saying, "Okay, well, you guys won't trade me because you're asking so much for me,"
suck,
which
so
I understand because I'm so good. I'm just gonna suck.
Oh,
That way you have to take less.
Is this illegal?
In a trade.
Is that okay if that's really his
I don't
mentality?
like the precedent.
Yeah,
I don't like the precedent.
Like, that's awful if that's the case. I'm not. And look, let me say this: don't quote us next week when Aaron Rodgers go out and throws for 3 touchdowns. Like all these guys said. No, Rodgers is good. Like, we know that.
He could turn it on if he wants to.
This
I
is just
don't know if he wants
weird.
to.
This is weird. Like, this just doesn't feel right. Again, and the Saints defense is good, but they're not like amazing.
They're not shut down Aaron Rodgers good.
Yeah. So that was a weird game. If you guys didn't get to check that out, make sure you go back and watch the stats, the reviews. I'll tell you what, though, Jameis Winston, my man, 5 touchdowns to start off the year? That's a stay. You can now throw 5 picks and still be okay. That's exactly what I hope he's thinking about that right now when he's eating some crab legs. He knows now that he can.
Man, if I throw 5 picks next week, that means I'm still okay. But if I throw 1 touchdown and then 5 picks, I'm still up.
Yeah. Hey, Taysom Hill is still not coming after you. I'll tell you that right now. So there was a lot of things we can celebrate in the NFL. Rookies threw touchdowns. Rookies caught touchdowns. Justin Fields threw a touchdown. Who else threw a touchdown? Trey Lance checked in the red zone and threw a touchdown. A lot of awesome things happened in week 1. Eric, what's your biggest takeaway?
I think my biggest takeaway is that, honestly, you don't fall over. My biggest takeaway is Dak earned his money.
Hey!
Dak can play. Dak can play.
That's awesome.
Now, I saw a meme that was like, you know, it was one of those was it the 3 circles? I forget what they. It's not a Venn diagram, but is it a Venn diagram?
I think it's a Venn diagram.
Anyways, but it's hate Dallas, like Dak, and then it's just me in the middle. That's how I feel. Like, I don't like Dallas. It's like rooting for the Yankees. Like, to me, it's just like I can't ever bring my. But I like Aaron Judge. I like Dak. Mm-hmm. So Dak can play.
I'm with
that. I think league-wide, I think that's the biggest narrative. I think second one for me personally, and I think this is a big one too, is Mac can play.
I would 100% take that away, and I would agree with that statement. If you want to, my biggest takeaway for week 1, because we're about to talk about one more subject when we wrapping this podcast up. It's this: Matt Stafford on any other team, he would have had a Super Bowl ring already.
Oh yeah, that's a good point too. That's a great point.
Dude
went off.
Amazing with that LA offense. And you want to know why? They were doing something they haven't done in years. They were throwing the deep ball. Cooper Kupp became a deep ball receiver. Matt Stafford looks phenomenal. And that man better be ready to make a deep playoff run. That's all I'm going to say. That team looked great. So that's my biggest takeaway for week 1 of the NFL. Now, let's bring it out and take a moment of silence for our injuries. 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. You said 2 seconds. I went,
Hey,
yeah.
It was a poorly timed joke, but it's okay.
Oh.
This is why there was a lot of injuries.
There were, but there wasn't. I mean, I'm looking at the injury report. I think the biggest one has to be Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
Like,
that one's sad, man. I love Fitzpatrick a lot, but it turns out he might be hitting the IR.
Vincent Taylor, that's another one.
Yeah.
I think that was pretty big.
IR's
Houston.
coming. Here's one thing that does not surprise me. Raheem Mostert ended up hurting his knee. He hit the IR as well. That running back has not stayed healthy. So we'll be seeing a lot of Trey Sermon and Jedrick Wilson coming out of there. And Jerry Jeudy had a high ankle sprain. He had 7 catches. I think it was either 5 catches or 7 catches for the Denver Broncos. He was their leading receiver prior to getting hurt. So that kind of sucks.
I think the biggest injuries happened on the Ravens before even week 1, right?
100%.
They lost three running backs before they even played a single real game. So,
hey, but you know what's crazy? And here, let me tell you this right now, and we can go ahead because we're recording this on a Monday night. So if you guys don't know this, but Tyson Williams, the 4th string running back, is 8 carries, 63 yards, 7.9 yards a carry, and a touchdown right now. Is that not good?
Do you think Latavius Murray will be any good for them?
I mean, he has 5 carries for 10 yards, so you tell me.
Not yet.
Yeah, we don't know. The dude literally got signed 3 days ago. Like, we can't
really
really speak.
I just want to say fantasy real quick. I put up 129 points this week,
Hey.
which usually is pretty good. I'm losing to Ketty. 193 points he has.
Who does he have on his team?
Wilson, Burrow, Lamb,
Oh, there's your
Thielen,
issue. Oh, my
McCaffrey.
gosh. No wonder you're losing. His team's stacked.
Pittsburgh defense.
Oh, there we go. I'm winning right now, 154, soon to be 163. I had obviously Pat Mahomes who did his thing, and Lamar Jackson's currently playing and is playing okay. So as long as nothing happens, I did have Mostert starting. R.I.P. That guy did not play at all, and Najee Harris sucked butt. So that sucks. That's my fantasy takeaway this week. But I'm 1-0.
Yeah, I'll be 0-1. I can't remember the last time I won my first game of the season. Too.
You are the modern day Patriots, Eric. Congratulations.
I don't know if I want to be that. Give me 0-3 or 0-4 any day of the week. But let's wrap this thing up on that note. Thank you guys for listening to another episode, another wonderful episode. Just me and Jacob this week. The other 2 boys are out. You can find us on our socials. We have an Instagram and a Facebook at Under 500 Podcasts. You should send us a message, and if you're listening and you got this far, if you have any things that you want us to talk about, any hot takes, any sort of things that we got right or wrong, we'd love to hear back from you guys and know what we can do to make the show better. Give some feedback on opinions that we can discuss. If you send us something, I can almost guarantee we'll probably talk about it one way or the other. Even if you don't even listen to the show, you give us your opinions, they get talked about. So it is what it is. We hope that you guys had a great time listening and have a wonderful week. It is September. I hope where you live, the temperature is finally cooling off, and you can enjoy what I hope to be very shortly my favorite time of the year, where I can get away with wearing a sweatshirt and shorts. Y'all have a great week.